You know the feeling. It's election night, you're glued to your screen, and the results, they just don't match the story the polls have been telling us for months. And it feels like we've been here before, right? So are political polls just completely broken? Or maybe, are we all just reading them wrong? Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, this is the question on everyone's mind. We see poll after poll predicting one thing, and then reality comes along and delivers something completely different. It's really frustrating, and it makes you wonder if you can trust any of the numbers you see. Well, the truth is, it's a little more complicated than a simple yes or no.
And let's be honest, this isn't just a vague feeling. We have the receipts. You remember 2015, right? In the UK, polls were pointing to a dead heat, a hung parliament. The actual result, a clear majority for the Conservatives. Oops. Then came 2016, which was a total double whammy. First, Brexit. Remain was the favorite pretty much right up until Leave won. Then, just a few months later in the US, national polls suggested a pretty comfortable win for Hillary Clinton, and we all know how that turned out. These huge, high-profile misses have seriously shaken our faith in polling.
To really figure out what's going on, we have to start with the single most misunderstood and maybe the most misleading number in all of polling, the so-called margin of error.
Now, on paper, its job seems pretty simple. It's meant to account for just one thing: random chance. So if a poll says a candidate has 48% of the vote, with a margin of error of plus or minus 3 points, it's just saying the real number is likely somewhere between 45 and 51%. It's a measure of uncertainty, all based on the size of the sample. Easy enough, right?
Well, wrong. Actually, a lot of top pollsters and statisticians absolutely hate the term. Joshua Clinton over at Vanderbilt University does not mince words. He calls it a misleading and horrible term. So, if the experts think it's so bad, why do we see it everywhere? And more importantly, what is it hiding? Okay, think of it like this. The margin of error is like the tip of an iceberg. It's the part you can see. It only accounts for the random chance that the specific group of people you polled isn't a perfect mirror of the whole country. But the real danger, that's what's hidden below the water. The margin of error completely ignores bias samples, like what if only highly educated people are willing to answer the phone? It ignores people who lie or who change their minds at the last second. And crucially, it doesn't account for the pollster's own assumptions about who's actually going to show up to vote. All the biggest potential problems, totally invisible to the margin of error.
So let's pull back the curtain on these other sources of error, the ones that are way more likely to make a poll wrong, but are never, ever included in that headline number you see on the news.
These are what the pros call non-sampling errors. A frame error basically means the list of people you're sampling from is incomplete to begin with. Then there's non-response error, which, hoo boy, this is maybe the biggest headache for pollsters right now. If only, say, 9% of people actually pick up the phone, are those 9% really like the 91% who don't? Probably not. And measurement error is all about psychology. You can ask a question in a slightly different way and get a wildly different answer. These are the things that truly keep pollsters up at night.
And get this, it turns out the pollster's own secret recipe, it matters a lot. Back in 2016, the New York Times ran this amazing experiment. They gave several different polling outfits the exact same raw survey data and just said, okay, make a prediction. The results? Their final numbers were all over the place, varying by as much as 5 percentage points. That entire gap had nothing to do with random sampling. It was all about the different models each analyst used to guess who was actually going to show up to vote.
Okay, so it's pretty clear that polls have some serious challenges. That must mean they're getting less and less accurate over time, right? I mean, that's certainly how the media talks about it. But when you actually look at the long-term data, a very different and pretty surprising story emerges. This is a shocker for most people. A huge analysis of more than 30,000 polls from elections all over the world, going all the way back to the 1940s, found zero evidence that polls are getting less accurate over the long haul. Our perception of failure has been amped up by super close elections and intense media focus, but the actual historical performance, it's been surprisingly stable. And this table just brilliantly illustrates that paradox. You take those infamous polling disasters. Well, statistically speaking, they weren't that disastrous. The error in that 2015 UK election, it was actually below the historical average. Brexit? The final polling error was statistically better than average. And for the 2016 US election, yeah, the state polls had some big issues, but the national polls predicting the popular vote, they were some of the most accurate ever recorded. And this is the crucial point. The problem wasn't that the polls were broken, it's that the races were razor thin. When an election is decided by 1 or 2 points,
Even a small, statistically normal error can mean the difference between predicting the winner and the loser. The polls weren't necessarily wrong, they just weren't precise enough for a photo finish.
So, what are we supposed to do with all this information? Well, we don't have to throw polls out entirely. We just need a much better way to read them. So think of this next part as your new poll reading toolkit. 4 simple rules that'll make you the smartest person in the room when a new poll drops.
Okay, let's break it down. Rule number 1, double the margin of error. Seriously, if a poll says plus or minus 3%, you should immediately think of it as closer to plus or minus 6%. That helps account for all those hidden iceberg errors we talked about. Rule 2, check the lead against that new doubled number. A candidate's lead is only really meaningful if it's bigger than that doubled margin. So a 4-point lead in a poll that has a real-world error of 6 points, that's not a lead at all. It's a statistical tie. Rule 3, look for trends, not headlines. A single poll is just a snapshot in time. The real story, the real value, is in watching how the numbers from the same pollster change over weeks and months. Is a gap widening or shrinking? That's the important part. And finally, Rule 4, question the assumptions. Always remember that 5% experiment. A huge part of any poll is just the pollster's educated guess about who will vote, and that is a massive hidden variable.
You know, if you remember just one thing from all this, please make it this quote from Poynter. It's the perfect metaphor. We have to stop treating polls like they're a digital thermometer, expecting a precise, totally accurate temperature down to the decimal point. They're just not built for that. Instead, we should see them as a barometer. A barometer can't tell you the exact temperature outside, but it can tell you if the pressure is rising or falling and which way the wind is blowing.
So you see, polls aren't really broken, but our understanding of them has been. They're not a crystal ball. They're just a useful, if a little fuzzy, guide to the political weather. And the key is simply knowing how to read the forecast. So the next time you see a poll, what are you going to be looking for? A precise number or a change in the weather?